Royal power. It looks simple from the outside. A crown, a throne, a monarch. Ceremonies, salutes, crowds cheering. It feels absolute. It feels commanding. It feels like ultimate authority. But what if that image is only part of the story? What if the real power behind the monarchy is far more complex, far more structured, far more controlled? Because in the modern world, the person wearing the crown is not always the person holding the power. Royal authority has changed dramatically over centuries. There was a time when kings and queens ruled absolutely. They commanded armies. They declared wars. They controlled law. They decided fate. But today, monarchy operates differently. In modern constitutional systems, royal power is carefully defined, carefully limited, carefully balanced. The monarch reigns, but does not rule. That phrase alone changes everything. So if the monarch does not rule, who does? Behind every royal appearance is a network, a system, an inner circle. Advisors, private secretaries, government officials, legal experts, communications teams, strategy planners, all working quietly, all shaping decisions, all protecting the institution. The monarchy is not just a family. It is an organization, a machine built over centuries. It functions with precision, with discipline, with hierarchy. And understanding that structure reveals something powerful. The crown symbolizes authority, but authority operates through systems. Let's begin with the most important foundation, the Constitution. In the United Kingdom, the monarchy operates within a constitutional framework. This means the monarch's powers are defined by law and tradition. On paper, the monarch has significant authority, appointing the Prime Minister, giving royal assent to laws, opening Parliament, representing the nation internationally. But in practice, these powers are exercised according to established conventions. The monarch acts on the advice of elected officials, especially the Prime Minister. This relationship is central. Every week, the Prime Minister meets privately with the monarch. No cameras, no press, no recordings. These meetings are confidential. The monarch is informed, consulted, respected. But the final political decisions are made by elected government. This balance protects democracy and protects the monarchy. It allows the crown to remain above politics, neutral, stable, enduring. But this neutrality requires discipline. It requires restraint. It requires silence in moments when others speak loudly. That restraint is power, because stability creates trust. Now consider the royal household. This is the engine behind public royal life. Private secretaries manage schedules, communications teams manage messaging, advisors provide strategy, legal experts protect interests. Every speech is drafted carefully. Every appearance is planned weeks in advance. Every word in an official statement is reviewed multiple times. Nothing is accidental. Nothing is random. And that means influence is distributed. The monarch approves. But advisors recommend. They guide. They shape. They protect. Some royal advisors serve for decades. They become trusted confidants, gatekeepers of access. They decide who gets meetings, who gets influence, who gets close. This quiet layer of authority is rarely visible, but it is powerful. Because access is power, and influence shapes outcomes. Even public image is carefully managed. Royal reputation is essential. It affects national identity, tourism, diplomatic relationships, global perception. So communications teams operate constantly, monitoring headlines, preparing responses, managing crises. Crisis management is one of the most important unseen powers. When controversy happens, strategy begins immediately. Statements are drafted, meetings are called, long-term impact is evaluated. The goal is always the same: protect the institution. Because individuals may change, but the monarchy must endure. That long-term thinking defines royal power. Unlike elected politicians who think in election cycles, the monarchy thinks in generations, decades, centuries. That long view influences every decision. Even silence can be strategic. Sometimes not responding is stronger than responding. Sometimes patience is stronger than reaction. This quiet discipline has allowed the monarchy to survive wars, scandals, and social change. Now consider financial power. The sovereign grant funds official duties, but the monarchy also manages historic estates, properties, investments, art collections. These assets are not personal wealth alone. They are tied to the institution, managed carefully, protected legally. Financial advisors oversee strategy. Transparency has increased in modern times. Reports are published, budgets reviewed, because public trust depends on accountability. Again, power balanced by structure. And then there is tradition. Tradition itself is power. Ceremonies, uniforms, symbols, rituals. They create emotional connection. They reinforce legitimacy. They remind citizens of continuity. And continuity is stability. The monarch may not create laws, but the monarch represents the state. That symbolism carries enormous influence. Soft power, diplomatic power, cultural power. And in many cases, that soft power is more effective than political force. Foreign leaders respect the monarchy. International audiences watch royal events. State visits build relationships. This influence extends beyond borders. So who really controls the royal family? The answer is layered. The monarch holds symbolic authority. The government holds political authority. Advisors shape operational authority. Public opinion shapes survival. Media shapes narrative. Tradition shapes legitimacy. It is not one person. It is a system. A delicate balance. A carefully maintained structure. And perhaps that is the true genius of modern monarchy. Power is never concentrated entirely in one place. It is shared, controlled, limited, balanced, which prevents collapse, which ensures endurance. Royal power today is less about command and more about continuity, less about dominance and more about influence, less about control and more about stability. The throne represents history, but the system behind it ensures the future. And understanding that system changes how we see royal life forever. Because the crown may shine brightly in public, but the real machinery of monarchy operates quietly. Behind palace walls. Behind palace walls, power does not move loudly. It moves quietly. Through meetings, through documents, through carefully chosen words. To understand who truly controls the monarchy, we must go deeper. Because the system we see today did not appear overnight. It was shaped by centuries of struggle, centuries of conflict, centuries of lessons learned the hard way. There was a time when English monarchs ruled with unquestioned authority. Kings could imprison rivals, confiscate land, raise armies at will. Taxes were demanded, wars were declared, and resistance was dangerous. But absolute power has always created tension. Nobles pushed back, parliament grew stronger, civil wars erupted. One of the most defining turning points came in the 17th century. A king was executed. That moment sent shockwaves through Europe. It proved something unthinkable at the time. A monarch could fall, power could be challenged, authority could be limited. From that moment forward, the idea of shared governance began to strengthen. Over time, Parliament gained control over taxation, over lawmaking, over political leadership. The monarchy slowly transformed, not through sudden collapse, but through gradual evolution. Each crisis shaped the system. Each conflict added safeguards. Each generation adjusted the balance. By the time modern constitutional monarchy emerged, the crown no longer held absolute control. Instead, it held constitutional authority, a symbolic head of state, a stabilizing presence, a national figure above politics. And this shift was strategic, because limiting direct political power protected the monarchy from political blame. If governments fail, elected officials are held responsible. The monarch remains neutral, untouched. This separation is one of the monarchy's greatest strengths. It allows continuity across changing governments. Presidents change, prime ministers change, political parties rise and fall. But the crown remains. That permanence creates stability. But stability requires management. Let's examine the inner circle. At the center of the royal household stands the private secretary. This role is one of the most powerful in the palace. The private secretary is the monarch's chief advisor, gatekeeper, strategist, coordinator. They manage communication between the monarch and government. They filter information. They prepare briefing documents. They schedule meetings. They shape priorities. While the monarch makes final decisions, the private secretary shapes what reaches the monarch's desk. That influence is enormous. Access defines power, and those who control access shape direction. Below them, a structured network operates. Deputy secretaries, communications directors, press secretaries, legal advisors, equerries, event planners, diplomatic advisors. Each role carries responsibility. Each contributes to the institution's survival. It resembles a corporation, or even a government department. But with one critical difference. It exists to serve the crown. Not personal ambition, not political agenda. Its purpose is preservation. Preserve dignity, preserve reputation, preserve continuity. And reputation is everything. In modern times, media influence has become one of the strongest forces surrounding the monarchy. A single headline can shift public opinion. A viral clip can shape global perception. This means communication strategy must be precise. Statements are never rushed. Silence is often intentional. Words are measured. Tone is calibrated. Sometimes a simple phrase is debated for hours before release. Because one sentence can define weeks of headlines. Crisis response is even more delicate. When controversy strikes, palace advisors immediately assess risk. Is this temporary? Is it structural? Does it require direct response or strategic silence? Some crises fade quickly, others define eras. The ability to respond calmly determines survival. History shows this clearly. During wars, monarchs boosted morale. During national tragedy, they offered unity. During scandal, they maintained restraint. Public confidence is fragile, and once lost, difficult to rebuild. That is why advisors think in decades, not days. Now consider another layer of influence: public opinion. In constitutional monarchy, public support is essential. Without it, the institution weakens. Monarchy exists with consent, not force. This means surveys matter. Public reaction matters. Generational attitudes matter. Younger generations often question tradition. They seek transparency. They expect modernization. If the monarchy ignores this shift, it risks irrelevance. So adaptation becomes necessary. Gradual change, measured reform, visible modernization. Without abandoning core identity, this balancing act defines modern royal power. Too rigid, and the monarchy appears outdated. Too flexible, and it appears unstable. The art lies in careful calibration. Now let's explore financial structure more deeply. The sovereign grant funds official duties, but the Crown Estate operates independently. Its revenues go to the government. In return, a percentage supports official royal functions. This structure reinforces accountability. It ensures financial transparency, and it ties monarchy to national economic framework. Private estates exist separately, managed professionally, investments overseen strategically. Financial advisors operate with long-term focus, because wealth supports independence, and independence protects neutrality. Money in monarchy is rarely personal spending. It is institutional infrastructure. Security alone requires enormous resources. Protection teams, logistics planning, risk assessment, travel coordination. Royal life is not simple luxury. It is structured responsibility. Now let's consider diplomatic influence. When the monarch visits another nation, it is more than ceremony. It strengthens alliances. It reinforces relationships. It signals respect. Diplomatic soft power can open doors politicians cannot. A state banquet can achieve what negotiations struggle to do, because monarchy represents history, and history commands respect. This quiet diplomatic leverage is significant, yet rarely discussed openly. Another powerful element is tradition itself. Coronations, trooping the color, state openings, weddings, funerals. These events are not just celebrations, they are national rituals. Ritual creates emotional bond. Emotion creates loyalty. Loyalty creates stability. Symbols reinforce identity. Uniforms, crowns, regalia, historic palaces. These visuals connect past and present. In times of uncertainty, continuity becomes comforting. That comfort strengthens the institution and strengthens those who guide it. But no system is without tension. Internal disagreements can occur. Different visions for modernization, different strategies for media engagement, different approaches to family dynamics. When these differences surface publicly, the institution must respond carefully, because personal disagreement can quickly become institutional debate. This is where discipline becomes essential. Royal family members operate within boundaries. Public statements are coordinated. Independent action is monitored, because one individual can influence the entire institution's perception. Now imagine the complexity of managing generational transition. When a new monarch ascends, advisors must adjust strategy. Different personality, different priorities, different communication style. Continuity must be preserved while adapting to leadership change. This transition is delicate. It requires planning years in advance. Succession planning is constant. Training begins early. Future monarchs are educated not only in history, but in constitutional law, diplomacy, public speaking, media management. Because leadership in monarchy is not political, it is symbolic stewardship. Now we must ask the deeper question again. Who really controls the royal family? The answer is layered. The monarch leads symbolically. The Prime Minister governs politically. Advisors manage strategically. The public legitimizes socially. Tradition anchors historically. Media amplifies narratively. It is not a dictatorship. It is not corporate rule. It is a network of influence, carefully balanced, constantly adjusted, designed for survival. Perhaps that is the true power behind the throne. Not dominance, but durability. Not command, but continuity. The system works because it avoids extremes. It avoids political entanglement. It avoids impulsive decisions. It avoids emotional reaction. Patience is power. Restraint is strength. Silence is strategy. In a world driven by speed and outrage, the monarchy survives by moving slowly, by thinking long-term, by choosing stability over popularity. And that may be why it continues to exist after centuries of change. Empires fell, governments collapsed, borders shifted. But the crown adapted, because real power behind the throne is not loud. It is structural, it is institutional, it is disciplined, and most importantly, it is designed to endure.